Hey guys, it's Micah from edeneyetarot. I am here today to talk to you about Mercury's ingress into the sign of Cancer. At the time that you guys are probably watching this, it's probably been like a couple days after I'm filming it. I'm filming this actually on the day that Mercury in Cancer, happened, or Mercury went into the sign of Cancer. And so I think this video is coming out on Thursday, but we will see because sometimes I change it around a little bit. Because also there will be a video on Mars's ingress into the sign of Taurus, which also happened today. So we got a lot of new energy today, which is July 5th, 2022. We had Mercury go into Cancer and Mars also go into the sign of Taurus today. And we are going to see quite a few aspects on both ends of those ingresses for both planets. But for right now, I'm just going to be talking about Mercury and Cancer. And I will come out with smaller videos. I'm trying to do like smaller videos for the actual like aspects. I'm going to see how that is kind of working out now that I'm getting back into like filming videos and everything like that. Um, let me know if you guys could do me a favor. Let me know. I started off making these planet videos, like, starting out talking about the transit, and then towards the end, talking about what it means if you have. Um, uh the planetary placement natally. Let me know if you guys want me to keep with that same format. I'm thinking about changing it. For right now, I think I'm going to change it, but I'm not completely solid on it on that decision. Much like Mercury and Cancer, I think we'll see a lot of that same energy. Maybe it's because Mercury is in Cancer right now, so I can't make up my mind. But like, um, we I'm thinking about like changing the video structure. So if you guys like the way that I did those videos before, let me know. Or if you want just a completely different um natal planetary placement video that's just all about natal placement, let me know. And we don't like, and where we don't talk about the transits, and then we have a different video where we're talking about the transit planetary placement, let me know that as well, because it's essentially just like the difference between predictive um, astrology and what's happening with the planet placement, like in real time, and then how it might manifest in a person and in their chart. So let me know. For right now, I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit and just talk about the transit. However, a lot of things that I'll be talking about for the transit of Mercury in Cancer definitely some of the things will definitely still apply if you have this natally, displacement natally. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we'll have Mercury going into the sign of Cancer today. It will actually be in the sign of Cancer until the 19th of July. And so when we're talking about Mercury in Cancer, let's kind of break down what is Mercury. Mercury is the planet of intellect, communication. It can be about friends, and it can also be about siblings, as well as like your focus. Where is your mind? Where is your logical mind? And I think it's really interesting that Mercury, we have Mercury going into Cancer because it's kind of like a meeting of of the minds. In Western or tropical astrology, we see Mercury as the mind, but I think it should, definitely be corrected, because in Eastern astrology, or not in Eastern astrology, in Vedic astrology, a lot of times the moon is actually talked about as also being the mind as well. So we can kind of look at Mercury as being like more of the logical mind that's not kind of wrapped up in all the emotions and all the feels. But the moon is going to be maybe like the emotional mind. And definitely the moon is a bit more reactionary. The moon, of course, does not have its own light. And so it's not just like this more reflective side of ourselves that does handle our emotions, but our emotions are going to be kind of like that reaction. But it's like also the things that are happening more on an internal level, and that's very much like the moon mind kind of perspective. And so when we have the logical mind and the emotional mind coming together, it's like this huge, just like I imagine it is like kind of like this like huge like, blooming flower. Like, I don't know why I get that visual, but yeah, it's like it's kind of like, that movement forward um with like, this so much potential and just abundance and fullness that comes together when you get those two sides of minds together, as we will definitely be seeing as Mercury continues through the sign of Cancer through the 19th of July. So, when we are looking at Mercury and Cancer, some of the first things I do think about are going to be talking about talking about our roots. Where do we come from? What's our ancestry? Where are we living? Cancer is, of course, a sign that's really talking about domestic life, home, family, real estate. Where did you grow up? How did you grow up when you were younger? Or like, what was your family like? It can be talking about, security, emotional and financial security. Or, a lot of times I think people don't think about Cancer as a very financially oriented sign, but Cancer and the fourth house, I guess, if you're looking at like houses that are corresponded to Cancer in modern astrology, then the fourth house is a money house, as is the second house, but a lot of times the second house gets most of that shine. But we can see like a lot of themes of like security. If you think of like a crab, it literally has its security, and so it can be about a lot about like protecting home, feeling safe. Cancer, as we were going with that crab kind of reference, Cancer, being the crab, can also be a lot about getting to point C from point A in a very indirect way. The moon really rules over people that wander, and not all that wander are lost. And so it can just be about getting to a certain place in a very indirect way, taking lots of pit stops, not going directly at something, and just going about it in a more indirect way. And I think we'll come to that realization that that's really kind of like a thing that Mercury and Cancer brings in the further we get into it. But yeah, so like kind of coming back to my first point is that Mercury and Cancer can be about a lot about talking about our roots. Where do we come from? Our ancestry, our home. It can be about talking about the past. The moon is talking about the past. The moon rules the past. It rules memory. It can be maybe manifest as a lot of like you spending a lot of time thinking about the past, possibly wanting to innovate the past. But first, you have to think about the past and really, kind of go back into your mind and look at um, maybe the things that you would like to change, but it's still looking at the past in some way, shape, or form, whether it be through family or it be through your past actions, or like have you thought about things in the past versus how you think about them now. I think that's a great exercise, even though Mercury in Cancer, it makes a king kunks. Sorry, my computer froze for not froze, but like the screen went black for a second. Um, Even though Mercury in Cancer makes a king kunks to Saturn in Aquarius, eventually it will. I think there is still this beauty in that aspect, that says that you cannot change the future until you reflect on the past, and both need to be honored for sure. And so we can, really, see Mercury in Cancer bringing up those themes of the past, about things that we remember, maybe uncovering new memories. It through some sort of meditation. But it can also be therefore developing new ideas as well. Cancer, whenever I think about Cancer, even though Cancer in the tarot is more, I think, attributed to like the Chariot, or I attribute it also to the High Priestess. I also think about, and this is just me. I also think about like the Empress when I think of Cancer as well. I think about like pregnancy, which is another theme altogether. But I think about that abundance and holding space for something new. And so while it can be a lot about being reflective and looking to the past, it's also about holding space while you're looking back to the past, holding space in developing something new, as well. That thing might not be revealed yet, but you're kind of like, in the inner workings. If you think about Cancer and the moon and what's happening, like while the moon is out, it's dark. So the things that you might be working on aren't just out there for everybody to see yet, but they are being worked on and they are being developed. And so Mercury and Cancer can be a lot of ideas that maybe you're not sharing with a lot of people yet, but definitely are being um, sharpened, and really, you're putting a lot of work into to make sure that it is sturdy and secure. um we were talking about Cancer a little bit earlier and how it can be about your home, like we were talking about, like with the crab. And so Mercury and Cancer, I'm sure, will bring on lots of like moving house as well. I know it has for me. I'm still not done moving, but I've and, just heard from a lot of people, and like from friends and family that are definitely either about to move, planning to move, or are in the process of moving themselves. And I mean, it's summer, so it tis the season, but I always love how like with astrology, it always kind of like matches up with the time. Like summer doesn't have to be the time where it's moving season, but I think there's definitely something to it, that it's Cancer season, and Cancer season is all about is the summer solstice, and it's a time that is, or a season that is really focusing on where is home. And so we can see a lot of people moving around, maybe not reorienting, reorganizing the home as well, moving things around, moving around furniture in the house, taking time to visit with family, or even maybe moving back in with family, or focusing on family, taking care of parents, can be a big thing that comes in when we're talking about Mercury and Cancer as well. It can also be like the moon is cohabitation as well. And so some of you could, during Mercury being in Cancer, could be talking to a friend about possibly, do you want to move in together? Because therefore, like having roommates, and, cohabitating with a friend, or like a marriage or romantic partner, that could happen as well, too. But when I think of Mercury and Cancer on its own, despite of any aspects, because again, we'll have like smaller videos about that later. Um, I think about friends and cohabitating with friends, in particular. And not to say that it can't be different, but that's what I just think of. And we definitely do see that, even with friends, living with friends, that you're forming some sort of new family in that sense. With friends, you're letting them into your personal space, and you guys are creating your own family. Especially if it is somebody that you are maybe romantically involved with. But this could also happen in a more detached way as well. So maybe some of you are moving into like apartments, or new apartments, because that's still shared in, communal like living. While we're talking about communities as well, the moon is also just like cities and large gatherings of people and communities as well, where the sun focuses on the individual. The moon is much more focused on everybody in the communities. And so it can be a lot of people, making steps to give back to the community, or living in more communal living situations. Um, like I said, there can be a focus on family, or like connecting with family. We can see a lot of parties happening, like, and that's why I did bring up like, like large gatherings of people. We could see lots of parties, like, people calling up, aunts, uncles, friends, family, whatever, and wanting to get together with the people that they really love and want to spend time with. And this can also just be like, taking trips out of town to be able to see those people, and visiting new cities, or visiting new potential places that you want to live, looking for home in new cities, or in new states even, can come up as well. There can be conversations that focus on women and birth and nutrition. I'm wondering if we're going to start to see some conversations coming up about like breastfeeding in particular, in particular, since Cancer does rule over like the breasts and the nipples, I'm wondering if during Cancer season, while Mercury is also in Cancer, because we'll have that Sun Mercury conjunction towards the end of Cancer, I do believe, where I'm wondering if there will be some sort of like conversation or media coverage like surrounding breastfeeding on or like whether it's hard to breastfeed for some women, especially since Lilith is still in Cancer as well, and kind of tackling how do we feed people, not just people but like the babies that that our government is now like really pushing to have birthed. I don't want to get too much into that, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I'm really interested to see if like breastfeeding comes up. I'm sure it will. But we can also see some things, just about women in general. Both the moon and Venus talk about women, and Venus isn't in Cancer yet, but it is in Gemini, and it'll be following up Mercury in Cancer in going into Cancer soon after Mercury leaves, which is going to be really interesting. But we'll, of course, talk about that when that happens. Um, while Mercury is in Cancer as well, I want to kind of bring it back to like the more intuitive side. Um, Mercury in Cancer, as far as logic and communication, it's going to be more. Internal and reflective, a bit more quiet, maybe even some could say shy. If you have Mercury in Cancer, I'd love to hear your own personal thoughts on your planetary placement. But I perceive this personally as Mercury in Cancer being a bit more. It's not that they don't, these aren't people that don't speak, but they are going to be a bit more reflective, observant of others before they start talking. Cancer, I always look at as being a bit shyer of an energy, because of like the crab thing, like literally like hiding in the shell and coming out when they want to. So it might be a bit more introverted, but we could definitely see that on a collective level, people being a bit more in their heads, a bit more dreamy. Speaking of dreams, this could be a great time to get a lot of great intuitive hits and intuitive inspiration that come through your dreams. And so, really make sure that you're getting your sleep for sure, because I think it can really help to like detox as well. We were talking about how Cancer is, all about nutrition, and we'll have sextiles to Uranus and Mars in Taurus as well, and which is also talking about resources and food and what you're putting in your mouth. Um, and all of that can really kind of come to like what's happening in the gut region. And I think a lot of people might start to see maybe some fluctuations maybe in like weight, but anybody that's been on any kind of like weight management journey knows that sleep is a huge part of that. It's big part of like mental health as well, which Mercury in Cancer definitely talks about. Again, since it's a meeting of the minds, it's literally like, what is mental health looking like? What are the emotional, parts of mental health? What are in like, how do you help to heal that? Cancer being a water sign, it can be a lot about healing, anxiety, or learning to detox and shed the excess, or like heal the excess, or not heal the excess, kind of heal emotional wounds as well. Um, you can be more sensitive to the words of others. Um, I was making a point earlier. Sorry, I'm jumping kind of everywhere. But um there can be more of a focus on like meditating and getting intuitive inspiration from vision and dreams. Um, we can be more sensitive to the words of others during while Mercury's in Cancer for sure. And it's a time to really come back to center, come back to home, so to speak, or to like release and shed the excess, detox, kind of like a crab does, when it sheds its shell. Um, like the hermit crabs, like when they shed their shell in search of like a bigger one, that they can actually fit in. I think a lot of people will find themselves outgrowing certain belief systems or outgrowing certain groups of people, because there's not enough space for them anymore, or feeling like they just need to change. The moon is about things that change, or like things that fluctuate a lot. And so we could see a lot of like maybe financial fluctuation, kind of like in the economy, but like for, a lot of people, individuals, I think as well, definitely fall into Mercury and Cancer in the next 2 weeks that we're going to be seeing. Um, Mercury in Cancer can also be like making emotional decisions. I can't talk about Mercury in Cancer without talking about that. It's going to be maybe making emotional decisions, or letting emotions kind of influence our decision making process, or like the arguments or debates that we get into. I do want to warn you, because essentially we'll have Mercury eventually square to Jupiter in Aries, and that can be a lot of heated emotional arguments, things that could be very insightful when it comes to your perspective and your beliefs. But if you let emotions kind of like outweigh the logic of things, it can very easily go from a debate to a straight up argument. Um, and therefore feeling very isolated, when that's not necessary. Um, on another note, we can also see like I was saying, the moon can be a lot about things that are impermanent or change quite a bit. And Mercury is the mind. So it can literally be about, being indecisive, changing your mind, trying to find emotional security can come up a lot as well while Mercury is in Cancer, or your mind just kind of being scattered. You trying to create. Cancer is a cardinal sign. And so it's always about like starting new things. But sometimes when Mercury, the sign that literally is very quick, and then putting it together with a moon ruled sign of the moon ruled sign of Cancer, it can be a lot about not focusing on one thing for too long, whether that's because something makes you uncomfortable, or because you are just very busy and you're trying to do everything for everybody else, and you're trying to nurture everybody. It can be a lot about spreading yourself too thin, and just, your mind is just scattered everywhere, or it can, spark a lot of anxiety. A thing like with that we see a lot in natal charts or in transits is that when the moon and Mercury come together in maybe a stressful aspect, or even a conjunction, can be like some issues with like I was saying earlier, with like mental health or anxiety kind of coming up, or depression coming up as well. So it can just be like a very moody time for your mind on multiple levels. um and that can really kind of sometimes turn into defensive communication, feeling like maybe people are against you even if they're not, or if it can sometimes feel like you're arguing to protect either yourself or maybe someone that you care about, when maybe there's not an argument that really needs to go there. um, that can come up as well. And like I was saying, emotions can just really influence um, the objectivity of day-to-day communications. This can, on the upside, really birth some beautiful new studies, diving into new subjects of study that can help happen as well. But I think the other side of Mercury in Cancer, other than starting new everything, or changing your mind, or possibly getting into more heated emotional arguments, is Mercury in Cancer is very soft. And so while it's sensitive and can be a bit moody, I think Mercury in Cancer, there's a great potential to just kind of let bygones be bygones be bygones. Again, Cancer is a cardinal sign. It's good at starting things, but it's also a moon ruled sign, and so it's not going to stay mad for very long. Um, if you've ever met a Cancer person, yes, do they do they get moody, and can you scorn them like beyond all reason and they never forgive you? Absolutely. But in my experience, at the very least, Cancer people, as long as you meet them with sincerity, with apologies, and you're up for showing them that you didn't mean any harm. Cancer people are extremely forgiving. They don't stay mad for too long. Even if you don't do that, they are not worried about you at all like that. And so Mercury in Cancer, especially, can be like, being ready to move away from a situation mentally. And so it can be a great time to talk things out, or to soften communication with somebody that maybe you've had conflict with. It can be a great time to just kind of like smooth things over. Um, Lastly, this can also be a time where we're talking about keeping secrets. Maybe you're keeping, we could see a lot of like, information being hidden on a collective level from the public, or people on an individual level, maybe keeping secrets for someone that they are trying to protect, or someone that, or their own secrets, that person that they're trying to protect could be them, themselves, or trying to conceal information for their own security. And that can really be a big part of Mercury in Cancer as well. Um, Other than that, that is all I have for today for Mercury in Cancer. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you would like to book a reading below, I will see you next time for Mars in Taurus. And other than that, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.